Welcome to Self-Care-ish, a podcast all about divorce, dating, choosing not to date, and saying no in a way that won't get you ostracized by society. I am Megan Lonrigan. I am a copywriter, former columnist, and also newly separated co-parent. I'm obsessed with meeting people where they're at in life, and where you're at, I'm guessing, is pretty busy. Most likely multitasking while you're listening to this right now. So with no further ado, it's time to get self-care-ish. Okay guys, welcome back to Self-Care-ish, a podcast that teeters on the edge between selfish and self-care. Today, we're going to outline a few tips navigating the roadmap to divorce. And kind of like a toddler that just finished a Slurpee, if you are at the start of your divorce, I know things feel hectic, but I promise things will mellow down, possibly with a few tears along the way. Actually, no, strike that, guaranteed. But first, before we get into all that, I just want to say something. Yes, I am very aware that I say adieu instead of adieu in the intro. So I was so nervous when I started this whole thing that I had a massive brain fart while recording the intro, like before I even recorded episode 1. And then I haven't had a spare moment to fix it, but I'm aware and I want you to know that I'm aware. So you can stop messaging me about it. I get it. I promise I am SMRT smart, but yeah, I get it. It's annoying, but in a couple weeks, I'll probably get there, but I've got a few deadlines. But also, a bit of housekeeping. Fun fact, I had a nose job last week and the recovery was truly brutal. And I very stupidly and cavalierly didn't think it would impact my life at all. And it was total hell. Like, yes, that's a little hyperbolic, but it was brutal. So it was my first experience of having a looming podcast episode deadline up ahead and feeling worried that I wouldn't have anything for you. But hey guys, it's good. I got you, because if there is one thing you can count on, it is my brain working overtime, even in a disassociated fugue state, staring at a wall. But that is why I sound so blocked up right now. So thank you for your patience, and I will discuss the plastic surgery stuff in another episode, so stay tuned for that one. All right, buckle up, folks, because we are wrapping up the divorce trilogy today. Yes, we will still touch on divorce, because that's kind of what this whole podcast is about, but this episode is to kind of bookend the 3 episodes dedicated to the art of uncoupling. And honestly, this was a harder episode to plan because I kind of have anxiety and hang-ups around telling people what to do. Ironic, because I know this podcast can get a little advice-y, but I never want people to think I'm like, you have to do it my way or the highway. My way is but one way on the myriad highways you can drive into the sunrise of separation on. But I just wanted to do this episode because, trust me, a year ago, I was where you are. Freshly inducted into the separation club. I was lost. I was confused. I needed a new fridge. It was a lot. And yes, getting divorced is kind of like being a member of a club, except it's one you never asked to join. And everything in it sucks. And all you do is talk to other members about how much this club sucks. And then, if you're lucky, you can start another club. One that hopefully doesn't suck as much. Which I know really isn't selling the whole concept to you, but if you've caught up on the last 2 episodes, you know that there are a lot of really beautiful things that come from breaking up. But in between that time, there is no barometer or picture of what divorce life will look like for you. And I get it. That is scary, terrifying. I was terrified, so I know how you feel. When I think about it, I remember being like, well, maybe it's the better the devil you know. Like, maybe I should just stick around this mopey Eeyore of a relationship because I know how it works and what to expect. And I really do love this person, even though we aren't acting very loving to each other. I was kind of like that living embodiment of that meme cartoon of the dog sitting at the coffee table, drinking coffee, saying, "This is fine," while there's a whole fire blazing around him. So I thought maybe this weird kind of heartbreak within a relationship was a relationship. And yes, I'm going to butt in here and say, look, I know my ex and I were experiencing the unique kind of existential dread you can really only have while living in the suburbs. We were safe, we were cocooned, like we were incessantly satiated, but still ravenously hungry for something, we didn't know what. And yes, I say all of that knowing how incredibly blessed we are. You included, because materialism, and you have a smartphone that you're listening to this podcast on. And basically because I'm just going to gesture wildly towards the third world. We are aware that others have life so much worse. But in a way, knowing that, there is a sort of offensiveness to looking at the blessings in your life and saying, you know what, I've got all this opportunity and I'm just going to choose to live unhappy because I know others have it worse. So I'm going to honor those people by being in pain. That is the weirdest kind of flex. Just because you can stomach the pain of maintaining the status quo. Yeah, no. So I say, if you're #blessed, it is your responsibility to live radically authentic to yourself. And don't worry, I know what you're thinking. I am going to cover it. I am not talking about leaving your marriage to shirk your responsibilities. Say if your partner becomes sick and you become their primary carer, or your kids get annoying, like that's tough, but responsibilities are part of life. They're actually what gives life purpose and flavor and resonance. What I'm talking about is just being bold enough to hold on to your responsibilities, but still carve out a portion of the universe that fulfills you, however that looks for you. And all of it is so you can give those that rely on you more of yourself. And if you're married and listening to this, don't worry, I have had messages from people. I will get to the topic of finding yourself within a relationship also. I got you. Or the experts that I will be having on have got you. So in the context of this episode, we're going to talk about the road to breakup. So let's get into it. Okay, so today in this, the third of the divorce trio, we're talking about the glimmer of small light that exists at the end of a very long tunnel, aka the end of your separation and divorce process. Like getting pushed through the anus of life in order to feel free on the other side, there are moments you are going to have to grit your teeth. Other times, you might have to grab the first thing you see to distract yourself. But in the end, if you pass through, you'll hopefully be well-formed. And I'm going to use another messy metaphor and separate this whole thing into 3 stages or trimesters. Because it is kind of like giving birth to a whole new you, complete with tears and tears along the way. Oh, and none of this is legal advice. That's not my specialty. This is more like self-nurturing advice. So part 1 will be the beginning of the end. Part 2 is middle management. And part 3 is, hopefully, what I'm going to call all's well that ends well. So here we go. Part 1. The beginning of the end. You've agreed to disagree on your marriage. Tip number 1. In the beginning, stop drinking. Or at least get sober curious. I know breakup booze and blues seem to go together in perfect harmony, but it's actually the fastest way to sabotage yourself. I promise this is the time you need your head clear and your wits around you. In the beginning, especially if you're still living together, you are going to feel like you're going to war. Except it is the coldest war possible. Because, like the Cold War, everybody knows what's at stake. And in your case, it's likely the mental health of your kids, yourself, or your financial security. And nobody wants to agitate the other person and give them a reason to send in the nukes, if you know what I mean. So you're going to want to gingerly navigate your time within the shared house before someone moves out. Do it with the delicacy of Barack Obama playing a game of Jenga. Nobody needs a drunk person playing anywhere near the nuke buttons. When you start talking to each other like HR executives, this is when you know you've hit the holy grail. Keep going. That's good. Tip number 2. Everyone knows this, but join the gym. I'm not saying this for health reasons though. This is to get you out of the house, because if you're following rule 1, you're not drinking. So there is a limit of things you can do to occupy your time that gets you out of the house. I guess it's also a really great way to blow off steam. You can take out all your frustrations on a punching bag without any fear of legal repercussions. Plus, nothing screams, I'm doing just fine, thank you very much, like showing up to court looking like Dwayne Johnson, or the female Dwayne Johnson. And let's not forget about the potential for that post-divorce glow-up. Your ex might have left you for a younger, hotter version of yourself, but with the help of a personal trainer, you can become that hotter version of yourself. Maybe you'll even meet someone new at the gym and prove to your ex that you're actually the real catch. But either way, it doesn't matter. The point is, you're out of the house, you're doing something that's not alcohol-based, and you can make your new motto, sweat now, shine later, flex at family meetings. So, tip number 3 is super helpful. This one is actually golden advice that came from my sister. So shout out to you, sis. At the start of your separation, the list of things to do is going to feel longer than the line at Disneyland. I'm almost at the 1-year mark and I still haven't done everything. So get a pen and paper, write a list. Start with the most pressing things first, aka find a place to live. Check. Get a separate bank account. Check. Change your Facebook relationship status. Maybe move that down to the bottom of the list. What I'm saying is the thing to remember is you're going to feel overwhelmed. So just tackle one thing at a time. And by doing one thing each day, you'll slowly chip away at the to-do list. And before you know it, you're going to be feeling very boss-like with a whole new apartment, a new fridge, and a whole set of new fitted sheets that you have to learn how to fold. Like, you can do it all, but just know you can't do it all at once. So don't even try. Part 2. Middle management. True to its name, the middle of your separation is going to feel a little bit like a Daniel Craig James Bond movie. It's like you've had the big climax of the breakup, you think it's the end, only to discover, no, there's another 30 minutes to go, so sit your ass down. This is the point where you're likely settling into life as a single person, which means, yes, you might start dating. In terms of dating, from personal experience, please don't do what Donnie Don't did and do what I did and get into a relationship with the second person you go on a date with from Hinge. And I know what you're thinking, but Megan, how am I meant to find the true love of my life if I don't get into relationships? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying take it really slow. Jumping into a new relationship right after separation is kind of like ordering a pizza while you're still full from Christmas lunch. Like, sure, it might seem like a nice, easy idea at the time, but I promise you there's no room in your love life for that pizza. Don't even try. So what I'm saying is just take time to reflect on what you really want in life, if anything, just to save yourself from falling for the same type of person you didn't work out with in the past. Plus, you'll have plenty of time to perfect that self-care routine and become the best version of yourself before introducing yourself to someone new in your life. Speaking of new people, you're going to be making new friends around this time. And making friends after separation can feel a little bit like you're back in high school trying to navigate the social scene all over again. My approach is to be open to everybody, even if they might seem completely different from my usual social circle. This is the time you've got to figure out who you gel with, because you might be a completely different person. You don't know who you are with this new life. So, funny story, actually, my ex and I, we both signed up for Meetup, which is this app that connects you with new people in a city. The problem was we both fell in love with a particular tribe of people, and we had to alternate weekends on which we could actually hang out with the new gang. So I really feel for those people, because by sharing this group of new friends one weekend, they'd have to listen to all my grievances and offer a sympathetic ear, and then the next they'd get my ex's side. So they were truly saints. But it can be just so amazing and supportive to meet other people who are going through similar things that you are. But apart from all the dating and the friends, it's a cliche, but this is your time to be your truest self. So eat weird food combinations while watching your favorite shows, sprawl out and sleep diagonally on the bed. There's so much goodness in this weird little period of separation. But remember, sometimes you are going to feel alone. It's not terrible, but it's just sometimes things can get really quiet and the reality of the situation can feel awfully loud. I remember combating that feeling by listening to endless podcasts. So I'd clean my house with Oprah in my ears or Raiders of the Lost podcast chatting away, because it kind of tricks your brain into thinking you're hanging with a group of friends. I know that sounds really sad, but hey, separation isn't all unicorns and rainbows, guys. Sometimes it is a piñata filled with disappointment and expired lollies. It's just a fact. Part 3. All's well that ends well. All right, so finally, after a year of eating pizza toast and dating inappropriate people, you're going to get to 12 months. The end of your legal Australian separation period, if you are in Australia, and you may finally apply for divorce. It also means you may have been able to work through a few issues with your ex, and you're able to sit down for family dinners. This is a really nice, wholesome thing to do if you can swing it. And not everybody can, and that is okay. My ex and I couldn't for a long time. We tried, and then we'd get emotional, we'd have to take a break, and then we would try again. But we're okay now. But if you can pull it off, it's amazing. One, because you get the benefit of a free home-cooked meal without having to lift a finger, which is awesome. Sure, you still have all the awkward small talk over the table you had before you broke up, but now at least you can both commiserate over how weird it all is, and you can bond over your mutual discomfort, which is great. Plus, and probably more importantly, your kids, if you have them, they'll love it. Family dinners help provide this sense of normalcy for the kids, and they'll love seeing both their parents in the same room and being able to share a meal together. And that will, in turn, make you both feel really happy. So you've got free food, awkward small talk, and happy kids. I mean, who knew hanging out with your ex could be so fun? But let's also get a little self-care-ish, because the beauty of the separation and divorce process is it forces you to think about what you want your next decade to look like. This is when you're through the weeds, you're out of the jungle, you're in the clearing, you're free to embark on a new chapter of your life, but this time you get to write the story with all the wisdom and knowledge you've collected from the last decade. I know it's not easy to imagine what the next decade is going to look like after divorce because, hey, you've never done it before. What I like to do, it's a little nerdy, but I like to create little lists of role models and people I admire that are unmarried and totally flourishing. So for me, these are women like Pip Edwards, who I think is just so stylish and just business savvy, and Erin Molan, who is so funny. And then I love Michelle Bridges because she's just so kick-ass in her career and inspires me, I guess, to go to the gym. I kind of take these little extracts from all of them, and they kind of together tell myself it's okay. See, look at the life that you could have. But it's just like a really good time here to ask yourself, do I want to travel the world? Do I want a new hobby? Do I want to date like it's my job? It's beautiful because it's all up to you, which you may not have had those options for a really long time. And look, remember, I know it can get overwhelming, but just remember that the worst that can happen is you might join a cult or something. But hey, at least you get a new group of friends. All bad jokes aside, this is your chance to create the life you've always wanted. The point is, the world becomes your oyster. unless you're allergic to shellfish, in which case maybe the world is your new tofu stir fry. Of course, there are going to be massive challenges along the way, and you are going to have moments of doubt and uncertainty. But hey, I guess if you can survive a divorce, you can survive anything. Maybe not a zombie apocalypse, but even then, you might have a really good head start on other people because you're already used to being alone a lot of the time. Okay, that's obviously a lot to unpack around the divorce topic. But next week, we're going to take a little break and venture down a different self-care-ish road. One that has potential to be a little controversial, but who doesn't love that, guys? So stay tuned for next week's episode. Is it love or is it limerence? AKA, what does a 1970s American psychologist, my own psychologist, and Russell Crowe have in common? It's a good story. It's wild. And I have been lucky enough to pin down one of TikTok's favorite therapists to help us break down the whole concept of what limerence is all about. So I'm really excited about that. Also, just a reminder, if you have thoughts to get off your chest, or if you want to share tips from your own coupling or uncoupling, please leave me a voicemail anonymously if you like at selfcare-ish.com.au. Until then, stay selfish, but with care.